Perfect.
All right, everybody, what's going on? And welcome to today's edition of SWAC Talk. This is the show that we cover the SWAC inside and out. I'm your tour guide around the SWAC Seawells, and it is week 5, man. We're going to go ahead and talk about all the games that are taking place this Saturday in week 5. A lot of SWAC action. Got 4 conference games, 2 non-conference games. So we are in the mix of SWAC play coming off of an exciting weekend last week. Figure this week going to be the same. So with that being said, man, as usual, we have our weekly schedule of shows on our socials. Facebook is SWAC Talk, Instagram SWAC Talk, Twitter SWAC Talk 76. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, man. We crossed over 1,100 subscribers the other day, so definitely appreciate that. Make sure you like the video, share, and comment your thoughts on week 5, man. Who you think gonna win? You know, who you think gonna have a breakout game? You know, got any upsets? You know, just hit me up with all of that, man, and we could chop it up in the comments. Definitely appreciate everybody for coming on my last video, especially the PV people. Man, salute to y'all, man. Y'all are flying high right now. So definitely salute for participating, and make sure y'all catch SWAC Smoke on Thursday, live 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern. Man, we like to get it in for sure if you haven't checked us out. So we're not gonna waste no time, man. We're gonna go ahead and jump into this and get this show on the road. First game on the schedule is homecoming in Houston. The TSU Tigers, they are taking on the Lincoln, California Oaklanders. 2 p.m. kickoff, Houston, Texas, AT&T Sportsnet, Southwest. Not a lot to really say about this game, man. Lincoln is 0-5. They got a shutout last week by Lamar, who hadn't won a game before that game. They lost to Cal Poly, another FCS opponent. So they're 0-2 so far against FCS opponents. 0-3 against D2 opponents, but they just moved up to Division II. They play an all-road schedule, so they have no home games. So this is their sixth road game in a row with no bye week. They don't have a bye week. That's one thing that I'm noticing from their schedule. They played August 26th, September 2nd, September 9th, September 16th, September 23rd, September 30th. Then they play on the 7th of October, 14th of October, 21st of October, 28th of October, 4th of November, and 11th of November. So they have 11 games in a row. Man, this team going to be worn out when they get to the end of their schedule. And I think it's starting to show a little bit. But they like I said, they scored 20 points as their high, actually against Cal Poly. They actually led that game 13-0 before they gave up a gang of unanswered points to lose it. And like I said, they got shut out by a really bad Lamar team on Saturday. So TSU should be fine in this game. I mean, obviously, anytime you play a team that's unknown, you want to give them the utmost respect. SWAC fans, you may know the name T.J. Goodwin. He was a quarterback at Valley who transferred from UTEP. He is now the quarterback at Lincoln. And he's having an up and down season there, but he's a guy that can throw the ball around. So you want to definitely keep an eye out on that. TSU is 0-4, so they're looking to pick up their first win of the season. This is a team that offensively, they haven't looked really good. I mean, they have played 2 FBS games and 2 SWAC games, so their numbers are kind of erratic. The running game is not where I figured it'll be at this point. And obviously, when you lose your starting quarterback, your passing game is not going to be as crisp as it could be. So the offense still has some things to work out. They're averaging 295 yards a game. 5.1 yards per play. The run game is at 135 yards per game, averaging 4.1 yards per play. They have thrown 4 interceptions as an offense. Last season, the defense was instrumental in the resurgence of the team last season by virtue of a ton of turnovers, especially interceptions. They led the league in interceptions. This season, they only have 1 so far. And, turnovers, sometimes they can come in bunches, and sometimes they just happen a little randomly. So right now, they're not getting that turnover luck. They are not stopping anybody on the ground. 218 yards per game allowed. They are giving up 4.4 yards per carry, giving up 275 yards through the air, 13 touchdowns, 1 interception, 6.5 yards per play total offense, 491 and a half yards of offense. Grambling was able to run the ball really good against them. But this is a game, not knowing a lot about Lincoln, and looking at what I've been able to find so far for them, it should be a solid game for TSU. I look for Ladarius Owens and Corey Howard to really get going on the ground game. Jace Wilson, he had a pretty solid game against Grambling, so I expect him to have a pretty good game. The receivers are there. Johnson, your tight end / receiver guy. Davis, Bennett, those guys, should be able to make some plays, and a guy like Jacob Williams on defense should be able to wreak some havoc. So, like I said, I don't really have a lot of information on Lincoln, so I'm not going to guess too much about what they are and what they aren't. I guess we'll find out on Saturday. But I like TSU to win this game by a score of, drum roll please, as my document comes back up, 38-7. Lincoln's done a decent job of keeping all their scores, in the mid-30s as far as the defense. So I figure TSU hit that mark. So I'm saying 38-7 as they face a team who is gonna be roll weary after a while. So bye week for TSU next week too. So being able to get through this game and get to the bye week is definitely vital. Our next game is another homecoming affair. This time is Alabama A&M Bulldogs taking on the Tuskegee Golden Tigers. This is an old SIAC rivalry. Tuskegee, they're one of those programs that don't back down from anybody that they play, whether they SWAC or SIAC or whoever. So they're gonna come to play. This team is 4-0, 3-0 in conference, so they're flying pretty high. Offensively, they pass the ball pretty well, 207.5 yards per game. They have not thrown an interception yet as an offense, 6 touchdowns, no interceptions. They run the ball for 132.5 yards per game, averaging 3.4 yards per carry. The defensive numbers are almost similar to their offensive numbers. They're giving up 127 yards on the ground, 3.7 yards per carry, giving up 208 through the air. They've allowed 3 touchdowns, but they do have 8 interceptions. So they've done a really good job of turning opponents over. They're giving up 335 yards per game. They're averaging 340. So they're statistically, the numbers are pretty even, but they found ways to win these games. They're converting 37% on third down. The opponent's 32. All the numbers are really similar. And, when you're a team that's 4-0 and your numbers look like that, then you're pretty much kind of, winning games, fairly competitive games. And they have. When you look at their numbers, they beat Fort Valley State 37-31. They beat Kentucky State 36-10. They defeated Central State 27-21, and then they beat Lane in overtime on Saturday, 28-22. So they've played a lot of competitive games. Only one game was won by double digits. So they've given up as much as they've gained. And they're going to be tested by Alabama A&M, especially their offense. I think the Bulldog run game is going to test the Tigers a lot in this game. They don't necessarily have one guy that runs the ball. They have almost like a 3-headed monster. Zena Muba leads the team with 150 yards and 3 touchdowns. Chase Sellers has 135 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Johnny Morris has 128 yards and a touchdown. Malik Davis is the leading passer right now. Although they've played 3 quarterbacks, um, Bryson Williams also has played, and Ryan Nettles. If you're this is another name that SWAC people should know. Ryan Nettles from Alabama State, formerly of Alabama State, has played a bit as well. But right now, Davis leads the team, going 23 of 27. 23 of 37 for 328 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Williams is 19 of 30 for 304 yards and 3 touchdowns. They spread the ball around. They have 3 guys that are bunched up in receiving numbers. Antonio Meeks leads the team with 13 catches for 308 yards, averaging 23 yards per catch. So he's definitely a big play guy. Has 3 touchdowns. Corey Petty has 10 catches for 151 yards, and Kenyon Webb has 12 catches for 120 yards. So they like to spread the ball around on offense, in the run game and the pass game. Malik Moore leads the team with 38 tackles. He also leads the team with 6 tackles for loss, and Javion Miller leads the team with 3 sacks. And Mikael King leads the team with 3 interceptions. The kicking game is pretty solid. They're 6 or 7 on field goals with a long of 39. Looking at some return numbers, they're pretty solid. Dewan McGee leads the team with a 37.5 kickoff average and a touchdown. So you definitely want to look out for a guy like that in the return game. Alabama A&M comes in off of a victory over Pine Bluff, where the offense was able to get on track. Quincy Casey was basically announced as the starter this week, so this is his 3rd start of the season. And last week he really shined, throwing the ball very well for the Bulldogs, and their run game came back. They're averaging 135 yards on the ground this season. They're throwing for 208. Defensively, they're still giving up some yardage through the air, 233. They do have 6 interceptions on the season as a defense, and they're giving up 128 yards on the ground as a defense. They're averaging 5.1 yards per play and gaining 342 per game. The opponents 5.5 yards per play, 361 yards per game. Third downs, the Bulldogs are very good on third down, offensively at 45%. Defensively, they're still struggling to get off the field, giving up 43% on third downs. They have registered 10 sacks and allowed 8. So they've done a good job of protecting the quarterback. The pass rush does have guys that can get home. They haven't really got home a lot, but they have guys that can make some things happen. Right now, Ryan Morrow still leads the team in rushing with 262 yards, but Donovan Eaglin had a really solid game against Pine Bluff. Really his first solid game of the season. He's been kind of banged up, but he had a really good game against Pine Bluff. Both of those guys are capable of carrying the load. Eaglin has 1 touchdown. Morrow has 3. Like I said, Quincy Casey has kind of taken a hold of that quarterback job. He's 47 of 73 for 561 yards with 3 touchdowns and 1 interception, completing 64% of his passes. The passing game has, they have guys who can definitely make some things happen. Cameron Young leads the team with 22 catches for 142 yards. Terrell Gardner has 14 catches for 233 yards. They both have 2 touchdowns. A guy like Keenan Hambrick has 7 catches, but he's a playmaker. And Barry White, the tight end, came out of nowhere last week with 2 touchdowns, and he has 3 catches for 46 yards. Defensively, Marvin Smith leads the team with 27 tackles. Xavier Billingsley has 4.5 tackles for loss. Zarion Hayes has 2.5 sacks, and Jordan Mitchell has 3 to lead the defense. Caleb Dawson leads the defense with 2 interceptions, along with Imari Pate. And the special teams has been the punting game has been pretty solid, other than a couple blocks, but they've been pretty solid, averaging 44.1 yards per punt. by Austin McReady, and Barbosa has been a solid kicker, going 4-4 on field goals with a longer 29. So they haven't really attempted any field goals longer than 29 yards. So they've been able to either convert third down, fourth downs, or they punt before they get into once they get into that range. Terrell Gardner is definitely a weapon in the return game. He has a punt return against Lane, averaging 29 yards per punt return. He's also averaging 25.5 yards per kick return. This game, when you look at it, you're like, okay, this is a D2 team, but this is a rivalry game. It's homecoming. There will be some distractions, but the Bulldogs should be fine. I think Tuskegee's gonna, they're gonna come in and they're gonna be fired up. They're gonna play hard, but I think A&M's offense is starting to find their form. Defensively, they've been, bend but don't break. I think they'll win this game 30-14. Tuskegee's gonna make it tough. It's not the score doesn't really indicate how Tuskegee is going to play in this game, but I do think that the Bulldogs will be celebrating homecoming in a good fashion this weekend. So definitely looking forward to seeing how the game turns out. And moving on to our next game, which is our first SWAC game on the schedule, that would be the Big Bad Braves of Alcorn taking on Alabama State. That's a 5 p.m. kick in the Gump. This game, man, is offense optional. I mean, both teams are capable on offense, and you look at my shirt, I have no right to laugh at nobody's offense. But these two teams have really kind of struggled offensively. Alcorn running game has been solid, as you would expect. Last week, Prairie kind of held them down in the run game. But the pass game exploded for Alcorn in that game, and they lost on the last second field goal. Defensively, they are still, a good defense, very capable of making things happen. They have kind of been snake bit a little bit on some big plays, but the defense is still pretty solid. They're running the ball well at 150 yards, 56 yards per game, but this team is giving up 156 yards on the ground as well. So they haven't really found that rhythm as a defense yet, but the potential is there. They're averaging 143 yards per game passing. They have 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. They're giving up 211 through the air, 5 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. So the defense has been forcing turnovers. They just haven't really been able to get the stops really that they need consistently. Alcorn's averaging 299 total offense, 5.2 yards per play, 368 total offense for the opponents, and 6 yards per play. Alcorn, even through it all, they're converting 40% on third downs. So they're being pretty consistent driving the ball. They've registered 9 sacks. They have yet to fumble the ball 4 games into the season, so that's definitely something good. Only 2 turnovers as a team at this point in the season, so that's definitely something that you can kind of put a feather in your cap. The opponents are converted 41% on third downs. They have 1 fumble, and the opponents have registered 4 sacks to Alcorn's 9. Individually, the running game, is led by Jarvion Howard. He hasn't really broke out yet this season, but the potential is always there. He has 209 yards and 3 touchdowns. Nico Duffy is at 143 and a touchdown. Tyler Macon 124 and a touchdown. Aaron Allen has been pretty solid the last couple of weeks. He's 54 of 79 for 541 yards with 2 touchdowns and no interceptions. The passing game, when they go to the air, they have the receivers that can make the plays. Malik Rogers had a big touchdown in the Prairie game. He has 7 catches for 160 yards. Montario Hunt has 11 catches for 158 yards. He hasn't gotten the end zone yet, but that possibility is always there for a guy like that. Terrence Ellis leads the defense with 44 tackles. Tyler Smith with 2.5 tackles for loss leads the defense. And Terrence Ellis and Malachi Bailey each have 1.5 sacks. Sheldon Russ as well. Those 1.5 sacks lead the defense. And just like last year, Alcorn's defense, they spread their sacks around. Ooh, that sounds so funny. They are a team that has multiple guys that can get to the quarterback. they are pretty solid in that, and it's looking that way this year as well. Robert McDaniel leads the defense with 2 interceptions. Caleb Darabon is averaging 34 yards per punt. Noah Kiani is 4 or 5 on field goals with a long of 42. He's 1 for 1 from 40 plus, so definitely something to keep your eyes out on if they get in that range. Right now, the return game is just like last year. It hasn't really broken out. They haven't really had any big returns yet in that aspect. So but the threat is always there with some of those guys they have back there. You kind of, if you're looking at it, you kind of hope that they can find a way to make some plays happen in that avenue. And look, switching over to the Hornets, Alabama State, they continue to kind of not. The offense is still not there yet. I mean, they changed quarterbacks last week. Damon Stewart had a pretty solid game passing the ball. The running game wasn't there this week, but FAMU's defense is really tough. So, it was tough to move the ball, but they haven't really found that rhythm as an offense yet. I think some of that won't change until the play calling improves. But their defense is still as good as it's been. Defensively, they're only allowing 18 points a game. They're giving up 13. So when your defense can keep a team under 20 points, you should be able to win games if you can score 21 points. This defense, I feel like if you give them 21, 24 points, you will win the majority of your games unless you're playing like a high-powered offense that's capable of scoring on a defense like this. But this defense is really, really good, man. They're giving up 90 yards per game on the ground, only 2.8 yards per carry. But the Hornets are averaging 71 yards per game on the ground. They haven't found that run game. And when you look at an offense with a big back like Juwan Howell, and I don't know if he's playing or not, but a quarterback that's that can run like Davis, you would expect the offense to be a little bit more proficient running the ball, but it hasn't happened yet. The passing game is inconsistent, to say the least. They're averaging 227 through the air, 4 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Opponents are passing for 208 through the air. They have 4 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. Hornets averaging 298.7 total offense, 5.2 yards per play. The opponents 298.3, 4.6 yards per play. Right now, Alabama State has only scored 5 touchdowns all season. The opponents have scored 7. So, like I said, the defense is keeping them in every game that they've been in. Honestly, they're only converting 30% on third downs and 37% on fourth down. So they just cannot sustain drives. They just can't do it. The defense has registered 5 sacks. The opponents have registered 7. The opponents have 39% conversion on third down, 83 on fourth down. So they've been kind of snake bit on fourth downs. And like I said, Juwan Howell leads the offense with 112 yards. They have no rushing touchdowns this season. I think they may be the only team this year that hasn't run for a touchdown yet. So they, their offense, and I'm not trying to pick on their offense because, again, if you look at my shirt, I don't have any right to talk about anybody's offense. But right now, their offense is just not, it just doesn't have any rhythm. It doesn't have any flow. The identity that you thought they would have, they don't really have. Damon Stewart is 31 of 49 for 350 yards with 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Davis, 331 yards through the air, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 29 of 44. The one for show, the one no doubt for show enough weapon on this offense is Keyshawn Johnson. He has 24 catches for 322 yards and 3 touchdowns. He is him, like people like to say. He is him. And he definitely is a guy that they lean on a lot. As you can see, he has 7 catches, 24 catches. The next 2 guys have 7. So they lean on him a lot. So where the ball is going, he's still making plays. And that's something that's really important to try to key in on. But they always know where he's at, and he's been producing pretty consistently. So That's the name you're going to hear all the time. Bubba Adams leads the defense with 35 tackles. He also has 3 tackles for loss, along with John Smith-Cobb. Those 3 tackles for loss apiece lead the team. Smith-Cobb leads the team with 2 sacks. In the interceptions, they have 3 guys with 1 apiece. The special teams has been kind of up and down. They're 2 of 5 on field goals, so they haven't really kicked the ball consistently well. They're 0 for 2 from 40 plus. They have a longer 29. They're 2 or 3 from 20 to 29 yards. They're averaging 35.5 yards per punt. The return game, like Robert McMahon is a guy that I was really high on in the offseason. He hasn't really broken out as a punt returner yet this season. He does have a 31-yard long, so he has had 1 really good return, but hasn't had a lot of other things going there. And the kickoff return game hasn't been that efficient yet. But this, like I said, this is a game, man. I think both offenses are gonna have to fight and claw for the yardage that they get. I went back and forth on this game, man, because like I said, I don't, Alcorn can run the ball really well. Alabama State's defense doesn't allow a lot on the ground. Alcorn can, they have the weapons to throw the ball. They just haven't really, before last week, they hadn't really found that passing game. So that could be the difference in this game, because Bama State offense is either Keyshawn Johnson or nothing. So I feel like Alcorn has a better chance of stopping Bama State enough times to win this game. And I think this score is going to be something like 18-15. I like Alcorn by score 18-15. Both teams have combined to score 20-plus points once apiece, I believe, if that. So there's not a lot of, I don't expect a lot of scoring in this game, but this could be the type of game, that could lead to a lot of scoring because I'm not expecting it. But I like Alcorn to win this game in a very, very physical defensive battle. I don't think either offense is going to have a lot to crow about after the game. So it's going to really be a game won by the defenses. The next game we have is Southern going to Pine Bluff. That's a 4 p.m. kick, UAPB Sports Network. Pine Bluff's played better than their record. They're 1-3. I mean, excuse me, they're 1-3, but their record doesn't indicate who they are. They've been in every game that they've lost to some degree. Yes, they lost the toss of 42-7, but they were in that. The defense kept them in that game for a long stretch before they wore down, and the offense never got going. Tennessee State, they couldn't really put anything together, but they were still in the game late before a blocked field goal gave the Tigers another touchdown. And they really controlled the Bama A&M game for stretches of their game before a late fumble cost them a scoring opportunity and ultimately the game. So this is a team who's getting better. When you look at the numbers, you don't really see it, really, especially offensively, but they are capable. Right now, they're averaging 150 yards on the ground, 168 through the air. They're giving up 238 through the air as a defense and 193 on the ground. 431 total offense for the opponents, 318 for the Golden Lions. They're averaging 5 yards per play, giving up 6.4. Third downs have been their Achilles heel. 23% on third downs, 33% on fourth downs. So converting and sustaining drives has really hurt them. They have 9 sacks as a defense. They're giving up 10. The opponents are converting 40% on third down and only 20% on fourth down. So they've been pretty solid on getting off the field on third down, but they just haven't really been able to. They haven't really been able to make a lot happen as far as actually getting key stops in games. They find, this is a young team, so they find ways to kind of make mistakes here and there, and it comes back to get them. Right now, the running game it has a few guys that are capable of running the ball. I've been really high on Giannis Davis, but he's been hurt. B.J. Curry is a guy who came in and played well against Miles. Um, Michael Jamerson doesn't have a lot of yardage, but he's a guy who can carry the ball. He did have a big touchdown reception against Alabama A&M. Macon is a guy who can run. He's not a huge runner, but he's a guy who get out the pocket. Hagan's also a quarterback who can make some things happen with his legs. Jalen Macon has been named the starting quarterback by Coach Hampton on Monday's press conference. So he's been really solid. He's 30 of 37 for 304 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions. Last season, in his brief time playing, he threw quite a few interceptions. He's been pretty solid when the line gives him time to throw. His receivers haven't always been consistent. They've dropped a lot of passes, but guys like Kenji Lewis with 10 catches for 160 yards and a touchdown. Maurice Lloyd has 8 catches and 109 yards. Like I said, Davis caught 6 passes. Ballard has 4 catches. Jamerson has 3 catches and a touchdown. So their offense is a work in progress, but you have to like what you're seeing. Defensively, they've been really solid. Rico Dozier leads the team with 36 tackles. Khalil Arnold has 4.5 tackles for loss to lead the defense, and 3 sacks as well. So this is a team they're finding their way. They're not, they're not great per se. Obviously, they're not a great team yet, or a really good team, but they are a team who is going to be a tough out. And they kind of, they believe in their coach, and their coach has an energy that is infectious. And he's preaching. Why not us? Yeah, they picking us last. This and that, but why not us? And a team like this is a dangerous team, especially if you're a team. If you're a team coming in with questions on your team. Southern is that kind of team. I mean, Southern has the guys to make things happen, but they haven't really did it, especially offensively. Only averaging 14 points a game. Defense is giving up 17. Again, like I said about Bama State, if your offense can even score points, that you should win the games because your defense is not giving up much. But the offense just hasn't really had any consistency, primarily because Southern cannot run the ball this season, which is odd for a Southern team. I haven't seen a Southern team be this poor running the ball since like 2012 or 2011. So they haven't, they have the guys that can run the ball. The line hasn't really opened the holes consistently. There's just been a lot of moving parts that hasn't led to a solid run game. The defense allowing 96 yards per game on the ground, so they're not giving up much on the ground. 197 yards through the air for the defense. They have 3 touchdowns allowed and 1 interception. Southern has 3 touchdowns through the air and 4 interceptions. Interceptions have killed this team. They only have 5 touchdowns as an offense this season. The opponents have 7. Southern's averaging 298 total offense. The opponents 294, both around 4.5 yards per play. So, if you're Pine Bluff, you really want your offense to get going, because if they can move the ball on Southern and put the pressure on Southern to keep up offensively, then the odds of Southern committing a turnover are very high. They have 8 turnovers this season. So they have had some very inopportune turnovers. 6 of 10 in the red zone, converting 36% on third down. As good as Southern's defense has played this season, third downs have been their Achilles heel. They're allowing 44% on third down. So they've given up some big third down conversions, even after stopping teams and forcing them to be in third and longs. They've been having busted coverages and giving up big passes on third down. So if you get to third down, you still have an opportunity to convert, because Southern has routinely shot themselves in the foot defensively on third down. But getting there sometime is the thing. Kendrick Grimes leads Southern with 89 yards and a touchdown on the ground. Gary Quarles, 74 yards and a touchdown. Harold Blood is 56 of 102 for 54% passing, 688 yards. He has 3 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. When they go to the air, they have quite a few guys who can make some plays. Right now, Jalen Howard leads the team with 8 catches, 127 yards. Kendrick Grimes leads the team in receptions with 13. Cassius Allen has 5 catches, and then you have quite a few guys with 4. So they do spread the ball around when they go to the air. It's just this offense has not been able to really, do a lot. I mean, they've given up 8 sacks as a defense. As an offense. The defense does have 12 sacks, so they've done a really good job of getting pressure on the quarterback. But the line has just not been great on either side, in either running or passing the ball. Jalen Campbell leads the defense with 27 tackles. Kelby Givens leads the team with 6 tackles for loss. Givens also leads the team with 2.5 sacks. Taj Brown is another guy that on that D line who can definitely hurt you. He has 5 tackles for loss and 2 sacks. They only have 1 interception right now by Horatio Johnson. That came at the end of the Bama A&M game. The special teams unit is very solid, especially the punt game. Robins Beauplan averaging 43.4 yards per punt with a long of 56. Josh Griffin is 3 of 5 on field goals. He does have 2 field goals from 40 plus. His long is 40. He has attempted a 50-yard field goal, but he's a guy with a strong leg that can kick, that can score points for Southern. The return game has not really been a huge factor. Chandler Whitfield does have a 43-yard punt return. Southern has only returned 3 punts all season, so they haven't really had a lot of opportunities there. The kickoff return game hasn't really been much yet. So those are, that's somewhere that I think Southern definitely has to improve. But this should be a very intriguing game, man. I think Pine Bluff, I think they are gonna be fired up in this game. They know that they're basically playing with house money. The pressure's on Southern in this game to come out and perform because Southern's the one picked to be finish high in the SWAC. West Pine Bluff is picked last, so anything they do is gonna be an improvement. They have nothing to lose, and they have a coach that's embracing that, and that makes them a dangerous opponent, especially for a team like Southern, who offensively has yet to find a rhythm. Pine Bluff's defense is not, they're a bend but don't break defense. So if Southern's going to have any opportunity to put that offense together, it starts this week, coming off of a bye week especially. Southern's been scoring a few points more every week, so I think that'll continue. Southern's defense, I think, it will be enough to get them through this game. It's going to be ugly as usual this season. I like Southern in this game 24-17. And that takes us to our next game, FAMU, heading to Itabena to take on Valley. 2 teams in 2 different directions. FAMU is 3-1, 2-0 in conference. Valley is 0-3. Hasn't played a conference game yet, been blown out in 2 of their 3 losses. 2 D2 losses for Valley. FAMU running game has kind of dwindled off after a strong start. They're averaging 112 yards on the ground. The opponent's only averaging 72, so that Dark Cloud defense is not giving up anything on the ground. They're giving up 222 through the air as a defense. They're passing for 281, 393 total offense for the Rattlers, 294 for the opponents. They're giving up 4.3 yards per play. They're averaging 6.2. They do have 3 interceptions as an offense and 4 fumbles. So they have had some turnover problems, 7 turnovers as an offense. They are -2 in the turnover. No, excuse me, they're -3 in the turnover ratio. So they haven't really been able to win that battle. That's one of the few things they haven't done well yet. They have 14 sacks as a defense, allowing 7 as an offensive line. They're converting 43% on third down. They're giving up 29. So being able to move the ball against the defense has been a battle for most teams. Terrell Jennings right now leads the running game with 172 yards and 3 touchdowns. Jaquez Yant has 140 yards on the ground. Jeremy Musa is 79 of 132 for 1,089 yards, 8 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Jamarish Reed has 21 catches for 222 yards and a touchdown. Marcus Riley, 12 catches, 198 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Also, Nicholas Dixon has 10 catches for 194 yards and a touchdown. Defensively, Isaiah Major leads the defense with 33 tackles. Anthony Dunn has 7 tackles for loss to lead the defense. Gentle Hunt has 6. Dunn has 4.5 sacks. Interceptions, they have 2. Major has 1, which he returned for a touchdown last week. And Kamani King has the other. Special teams, as usual, this is a solid unit. On the 3 or 5 on field goals with a longer 34. They missed 1 from 30 to 39 yards and 1 from 40 plus. They're averaging 41 yards per punt. And the return game is great. Sheree is a weapon in the punt return game. Has a longer 50. He's averaging 23 yards per punt return. Riley has a kickoff return touchdown. He's averaging 30 yards per return. So that's one unit that FAMU is always going to be solid in. And that's no different this season. So that's a key for them. Valley, they still have a lot of work to do. I mean, this team hasn't really done a lot. They scored 21 points in their first game, 7 in the next game, and 3 last week. So the offense is just, it's just not there. They're averaging 127 yards through the air, 143 on the ground. They're giving up 148 on the ground and 291 through the air. They do have 7 interceptions as a defense, but they've thrown 9. They do have 12 touchdowns, but they've thrown. I was about to say that's 2022. I was about to say, hold on. They're averaging 102 yards on the ground and 120 through the air. They have 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions. They're giving up 9 touchdowns through the air and 299 yards passing, 148 on the ground. Total offense Valley is at 222, 3.2 yards per play. The opponents 448 with 6.1 yards per play. Valley is 22% on third downs, giving up 39 on fourth. They have 5 sacks of the defense. They're giving up 11, so they haven't had any success protecting the quarterback. Jared Wilson leads the team with 156 yards rushing and 1 touchdown. They've played 3 quarterbacks pretty much consistently this season. Right now, Tajarian Williams has the better numbers out of the 3. He's 23 of 37 for 157 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Dino Maldonado, 23 of 44 with 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, and 144 yards. Their leading receiver right now is Carrick Ross with 10 catches for 95 yards and a touchdown. Defensively, they're led by Jaron Fox with 22 tackles. They have Khalib Alexander with 3.5 tackles for loss. And they have 5 guys with 1 sack apiece on their defense. Special teams, they're averaging 34 yards per punt. And they are only 1 or 2 on field goals. And they're 1 or 2 on field goals, and their only field goal made is from 44 yards. So that's such a Valley thing, man, and not make a lot of field goals and not even attempt a lot, but the one you make is a very long field goal. The return game hasn't broken out, but a guy like Kobe Bates is a very solid return guy. Hasn't really broken out yet. Bobby Shanklin does have a 48-yard kick return for the Delta Devils. But this game is going to be tough for them. FAMU is starting, I think they're starting to round in the form. And I like the Rattlers to win this game. Valley's just not there yet. I like FAMU by a score of 41-6. I think Valley's always game at home, but I'm not sure if that team is this team right now. So I like the Rattlers in this one. And that takes us to our final game, which is our game of the week. And this is a battle for the SWAC West. Basically, the battle for the lead in the SWAC West. Prairie View's 2-2, 2-0 overall. Grambling's 2-2, 1-0 overall. So the winner has a great shot. And also depending on what Southern does in this game, they could be sitting alone in first place, or they could be sharing first place, or have a game lead if you're Prairie View. So there's a lot on the line in this game. The Panthers haven't really found it yet offensively as far as scoring yet. They're averaging 19 points a game. They're giving up 42. The running game is almost where they typically would be at 175 yards per game. They're giving up 138. The passing game has been a bit better, 189 yards. They have 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. They've been getting gashed through the air. 319 as a defense in passing yards allowed. They've given up 16 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. They're averaging 5.2 yards per play, giving up 7.8 yards per play, almost getting outgained by 100 yards of offense. So they have to really find some things to work on their offense. 36% third down conversion, 45 for the opponents. They only have 1 sack as a defense. They've given up 10. They fumbled the ball 3 times. This team is kind of, they played 2 SWAC games and they've won them both by a field goal. So they've won 2 close games and the 2 losses have not been close. And the numbers kind of reflect that. The run game, you have Johnson, you have Antoine, you have Wisham, you have Conley. All these guys are capable of carrying the ball. Right now, Antoine leads with 299 yards and a touchdown. Conley is 51 of 90 passing for 703 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. The leading receiver right now is Brian Jenkins Jr. He has 10 catches for 204 yards. Also, Trajan Spiller has 8 catches for 112 yards and a touchdown. 2 touchdowns. Defensively, Keyshawn Johnson leads them with 32 tackles. Derek Ray has 3 tackles for loss, and he has their only sack. And they have 5 guys with an interception apiece. Special teams, Jasso averages 36 yards per punt, and they are 5 of 8 on field goals. So they have a long of 46 on the season. So they have the ability to make long field goals, but they've been pretty consistent in the kicking game. Their return game, Brian Jenkins Jr. is having a great season returning punts so far, averaging 18.6 yards per return. He's averaging 15 yards per kickoff return, has a 34-yard as a long on kickoffs, 45 on punts. This defense is going to be tested by Grambling's offense. Grambling's offense has been pretty consistent all season. They've been able to pass the ball in some games. Some games they've been able to run it well. They're averaging 33 points per game. Defensively, they still are kind of working some things out. The defense had a really good game against Texas Southern last week on the ground. They're giving up 38 points per game. Right now, Grambling's running for 179 yards per game, 5 yards per carry. They're giving up 233 on the ground with 5.3 yards per carry, but they held TSU down last week. So the ability to stop the run is there. I don't know if they can consistently do it. They're averaging 218 through the air, 8 touchdowns, 1 interception. 210 as a defense, 11 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. 397 total offense for Grambling, 6.1 yards per play, 443. For the opponent, 6.2 yards per play. Grambling's converted 41% on third down, giving up 48%. They have 5 sacks. The opponent has 4. Grambling's fumbled the ball twice. The opponents have fumbled 3 times. Grambling is 17-18 in red zone. So when they've gotten in the red zone, they've definitely been able to capitalize. The running game has been really, really good, man. Chance Williams is leading the team with 361 yards and 2 touchdowns. Florida Chalk, 199 yards and 4 touchdowns. You also have Keelan Elder with 100 yards and 1 touchdown. Miles Crawley has had a great season so far. 67 of 113, 865 yards, 8 touchdowns, 1 interception. When he goes to the air, Antonio Jones has 17 catches for 212 yards. Lyndon Rash has 14 for 168 and 3 touchdowns. Lewis Matthews leads the defense with 35 tackles. Lane Lewis has 2.5 tackles for loss. Javon Carter also has 2.5 tackles for loss. Lane Lewis and Keyshawn Johnson both have 1.5 sacks, and they have 4 guys with 1 interception apiece. Special teams unit, Jimmy Isles averages 43 yards per punt, has a long of 59. Tanner Rinker is 2 or 3 on field goals with a long of 31. So they've been pretty solid in the kick game. Return unit, the punt return unit is averaging 4.5 yards per return, and the kickoff return unit is averaging 14.7 yards per return. So hasn't really got a lot going in the return game yet, but it's always an opportunity to break one, especially in a game like this. The State Fair Classic is one of those games that you never know what you're gonna get. Some years you get a defensive battle. Some years you get a one-sided game. Sometimes you get a game where the one team has control of the whole time, but the other team is not that far out of it. And then sometimes you get shootouts. And I think this season is going to be a shootout because neither defense has really displayed the ability to stop anybody consistently. Prairie View, they're gonna run the football. That's what they want to do. They're gonna do it. If they're able to do that, and Grambling defense goes back to what they were before the TSU game in terms of stopping the run, then Prairie View is gonna win this game. If Grambling offense can connect through the air, which is PV's weakness on defense, if Miles Crawley can connect with his receivers and hit big plays, Grambling's gonna win this game. I like Prairie View because of the run game, and I think they're playing well in conference right now. And they are pretty solid in this matchup. So you kind of feel like they're gonna continue to play lights out in this game. Like I said, they're 2-0 in conference, and they've been pretty solid in the State Fair Classic. As a whole, actually, right now they are on a 5-game winning streak. So, can they keep that up? I mean, will Grambling break that streak? That's something to be looked at. But right now, I like the Panthers in this game by a score 34-31. I think this is going to be a shootout. This could be anybody's game. I think it'll come down to the end again. Both Prairie View's games have come down to game-winning field goals, one in overtime, one in the regulation. I'm not sure if it's going to come down to a game-winning kick, but it's going to come down to a late score. So I like the Panthers in this one by a score 34-31. And I think they'll continue to hold their West Division lead for now. And that's going to do it for today's show. We'll be back tomorrow with SWAC Smoke, live 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern. And until then, man, this is your boy C. Wells, the tour guide around the SWAC, signing out. And I'm going to catch y'all on the rebound. Peace.